Hello, everybody. This is Lee Hooker. I'm the children's pastor here at Spring First Church, and this is our children's ministry worker training video. We're about to go through some general policies and procedures that we expect you as the worker to follow when you're working for us and volunteering for us over in the Learning Center. Some of the things that we go through may be gone through rather quickly, and if you need to go back and reread or read a little bit more in depth what the policies are, you will have access to that digitally as well as a paper copy if you'd like. So the purpose of this training is to make sure that you're prepared for when you step foot into your classroom and you're interacting with children on a day-to-day basis. But like I said, if there's any time that you need a little bit more understanding of what is expected, that's where the policy comes into play. So before we get into anything specific about day-to-day, everything that we wrote in policy has a core belief that is associated with it. And I want to read through some of those core beliefs so that you understand where we got these policies from. So the first core belief is we believe it's our responsibility to protect the reputation of Jesus Christ. Everything we do should be done with excellence and utmost care, as unto the Lord. Jesus is our model, and we aim to run our ministry with love, wisdom, dedication, and servant leadership he showed during his ministry. We want to make sure that everything that we do points the children back to Christ. Number 2, we believe it's our responsibility to protect the children in our care. Children, parents, and guardians need to know that we've taken every reasonable step to ensure the safety of our children in our ministry. This is even more important because our Learning Center is a separate building. We want to make sure that parents, especially first-time visitors, are confident in the staff that we have over there and the procedures and policies that we have in place so that when they're over here experiencing service, they don't have to have any worries or doubts about what might be happening with their children in the other building. Number 3, we believe it's our responsibility to protect staff and volunteer workers in our ministry. To this end, we have screening and supervision policies in place to protect our ministry workers. These policies are there to protect you as well. There are many false accusations that get thrown around at churches and schools, and we want to make sure that we have supported you as best as we can to negate any false accusations that come your way. And then 4th, we believe it's our responsibility to protect our ministry and church. By requiring child protection training, as well as implementing screening and supervision policies, we're modeling wise safety procedures to others who may look to our ministry as an example of a well-run children's ministry. We want to make sure that we uphold the excellence that Spring First stands for. So everything that we have in place in our policy is showing that dedication and that excellence that we have. Now, to go along with what we believe, there are some core expectations that we will have as well. With these core expectations, you'll sign a verification, a worker acknowledgement form at the end that you can read it completely. But I just want to touch briefly on each of the 5. So first, we expect you to follow all the policies and procedures that are in the manual. So if we don't go through something during this training, then you need to make sure that you've gone through and read through what is in there. We're not trying to hide anything from you, but we just want you to know we also expect you to read through and understand the full policy manual. Second, we expect appropriate physical contact. We need to make sure that children are protected and are having the utmost care. So there can't be any inappropriate or uncomfortable touching in any way between a worker and a child. We expect appropriate and gentle communication. The way that we talk to our children that are in the ministry over in our classrooms, as well as parents, is vital. We need to make sure that we are treating them and showing them the love of Christ in our actions and in our speech. Number 4, we expect our workers to be actively monitoring the children in our care and to interact with children during ministry time. We don't want you to just be a babysitter in the room. We want you to be on the floor playing with the kids, telling them Bible stories, interacting with them, getting to know them a little bit. We want you to serve in that sort of utmost excellence that I keep speaking of. And the only way we can do that is if we have those interactions with those kids. And then the last one, we expect inappropriate or suspicious behavior to be reported. We want to make sure that if we see anything happen in the Learning Center or if we suspect abuse or any neglect when a child comes into our care, we need to be reporting that to the appropriate authorities. We, as state citizens of the state of Texas, are all mandated reporters. If we suspect anything or have any suspicions, we need to report them to the appropriate authorities, who can then take an investigation into their go into an investigation to see if there is any cause behind what we suspect. Now, like I said, you'll read more in those when you get the policy, as well as when you sign your worker acknowledgement form. But now that those are out of the way, we want to get you to really understand what we expect when you walk into the Learning Center on a day where you're actually working. So we want to go through a typical day so that you can see what we expect. So I'm going to list the 6 things that we have here, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth. So the first one, make sure that you're running or coming in 30 minutes early. So when you come in 30 minutes early, you'll sign in, you'll get a lanyard, and go to your room. Second, you're going to follow the schedule, the general overall schedule that we have in the room. Third, we'll go through checkout processes. Fourth, we'll clean up after ourselves and go through the cleanup procedures. 5, we'll return our supplies to the resource room. And then 6, we'll talk about checkout of yourself and returning of your lanyard. So let's go a little bit more in depth into each of those. So let's talk about arrival. So we do want you to arrive 30 minutes early and sign in and get your lanyard and go to your room. So with sign in, you're going to sign in currently at the information center, but we do have plans to move that up to the resource room and have sort of a workers station where you're going to get a lanyard that looks like this, and it says Children's Ministry Worker. So you're just going to wear this when you're in there. It's just a way for us to be sort of better identifiable to our parents and to our visitors. You'll wear that the entirety of when you are working, and you'll sign in on a sheet. Now, the sign-in is just a way for us to have a running roster of when people are in the building at a specific time. In case there are allegations that come up, we have a record that we can cross-check and know who was in the building at the time of when someone is suspected of having any inappropriate conduct. So after you sign in and get your lanyard, what you then are going to do is you're going to go up to the classroom. It should already be unlocked, and you're going to go into your room, and you're going to look through the bucket that we have placed in there. Inside your bucket is going to be the lesson for the day, snacks, any supplies that you might need. So during that early time, you're going to read over the lesson if you haven't already. Make sure that all of the supplies are ready. So we try to have everything up to date, but we may have misplaced something or forgot to put something in the bucket. So if you use that time to then alert one of the ministry leads, we would be able to get those supplies back to you. Next, you're going to inspect the room. You're going to look around to make sure there's nothing hazardous, that maybe a toy is broken with a sharp edge, or maybe there's some mess from Sunday school class. Anything that's out of place, that would then give you the time where you can tidy that up and remedy any of the situations that may have arisen from that. If you need help with any of that, then that's where you can alert the ministry lead. We also want to make sure that you're there 30 minutes early so that we know that we will have 2 teachers in the room. If both of our teachers get there at that 30-minute mark, we know as the ministry leads that we don't have to find substitutes or find someone who can float in, because one of our policies is 2 teachers need to be in the room at all times. Doesn't matter the number of children, there needs to be two teachers in there. Why are we doing that? We're doing that so that there's accountability, so that there's another adult or another person who can give you sort of a reference check and be able to be accountable for any accusations that come up. Next, you can make sure that the doors are locked and shut. Sometimes we might have opened the door, but we didn't lock it. So that's a way that you can, when you get there early, you can go in the class, you can shut the door behind you, make sure that it's locked so that it's ready for when parents come. And then most importantly, be there early so that you're there before the children. Parents want to get to service on time, which means they need to get their children dropped off first. So we need to make sure we're there before the parents. So we want to make sure that if we're there 30 minutes early, that's typically more than enough time to ensure that that is the case. With that said, we also are going to have first-time visitors. And for first-time visitors, coming a little bit earlier sometimes is even more important because they want to make sure that they get everyone situated at the right time. So having that 30 minutes assures that even first-time visitors are going to be able to see the classroom. And we want you to make sure that you are there, that you're super friendly, that you're showing parents around, answering any questions that they might have, and just getting to know their child and show the interest and the love that you have just working in kids ministry. You want to alleviate any sort of apprehension or any potential fears that these parents may have coming in. We want to make sure that we put them at ease, knowing that their child is in a good place and that is safe and secure. So after you arrive, after you set up, the next thing is just what do we do during service? So the next thing is just following the actual schedule provided. So in each classroom, you're going to have a little schedule somewhere on the wall that looks like this in a little page protected thing. So what this does is it has the specific times of when you have free time, worship, when you're going to do the lesson, and so forth. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that when you go through that schedule, that you are doing as best as you can following to that, because we have it planned out or mapped out pretty closely to what we expect service to be out. Now, with the first thing on there, that's going to be free time. So free time is going to be allowing kids to just play with the toys in the room, making sure you're interacting. This is where that big interaction key comes into play, because we don't want workers sitting down in a chair and just have the kids playing off to the side. Now, sometimes kids really play well together with other children. It doesn't mean you have to interrupt them, but there's other times where there's going to be a child that's by themselves or maybe isn't as intuitive or doesn't really want to go and interact with someone else. Those are the children that you can go over, sit on the floor, and get them involved. Try to, if it's a visitor, try to introduce them to the other children that you may know who can then incorporate them into their play. Now, before I go forward any further, I also need to mention at any point, let's say a child's in there and someone starts crying and they need someone else, or you need to step out for some reason. You believe you have to step out. At any point while we are in the classroom, I already mentioned we need to have 2 teachers there. Inside your bucket, you're going to have a walkie-talkie. And what you're going to do is you're never going to leave the room, but instead you're going to use that walkie-talkie to alert the ministry lead or the ministry floater. So we're going to have some extra people that will be in the building that are answering any radio calls that you have. This assures that 2 teachers will remain inside of the classroom. That's, like we said, that's key when it comes to our accountability. We want to always make sure those 2 teachers are in the room. So what we're going to do is if you need anything, if you need to step out or you need more supplies or you ran out of snacks because there was more kids than you expected, what you're going to do is you're going to use the walkie-talkie to alert a ministry lead. Do not leave the classroom when there's only 2 of you in there. If there's 3 of you in the room, that is fine as long as 2 remain. But if there's just 2 of you, use the walkie-talkie. All right, so besides free time, the next important thing is just restroom and potty time. So with our younger children, infants that are less than 1, they must be changed by a female adult worker. Now, an adult worker is anyone that is 18 years or older. Anytime we have teenagers that are working in the infant room, they're not allowed to change diapers. If there happens to be, while you are changing a diaper, there's a diaper rash or anything that you like something's a little off when you're changing the diaper, every parent has filled out an child profile that will alert you to know if you can use diaper cream or not, as well as just gives the parents an update when they come back. Hey, I noticed that your child had a diaper rash. We put on some ointment just to keep them in the know. But with that said, adult female workers are the only ones that are allowed to change a diaper. When we move up to the next age level, toddlers who are still in diapers, those are allowed to be changed by any female worker that is in the classroom. Doesn't matter if it's an adult or a teenager. This age is a little bit more flexible. There aren't many issues that infants just need that extra care and just gentleness. So we want to make sure that adults do the infants, but toddlers and above, any female worker is able to change their diaper. Now, when we get to the next age, which is when we're starting potty training up through kindergarten, this is going to be Female workers are still going to attend to these children. You're going to, if an accident happens where a child does need you in the restroom, they're trying to potty train, but they have an accident, a female worker can open the door discreetly and still help the child change into a new pair of clothes, as long as the other worker can also kind of have some visual, they can see what you're doing. So we want to do it discreetly, but we also want to have privacy, but still also be sort of aware, because we, again, want to negate any allegations that may arise. So female workers are allowed to go in to help with any potty training accidents. And then the last age group is 1st through 6th grade. These children are able to go to the bathroom themselves. They will simply go to the bathroom when they're in Power Kids. We'll just stand inside Power Kid room and observe them going in and out of the bathroom, but we will never go in the bathroom with them. If assistance is needed, if we're alerted that they need help, we will contact the parent to come over and assist that child. Now, this is different on Wednesday nights, specifically during girls' ministry and Royal Rangers. That is where we don't have any bathrooms directly connected to the classrooms that we're in, especially with LC 1, 2, and 3 over there. So with those situations, there's two options for you as the ministry lead. First, and the most frequently used one, is a buddy system. Have two children of the same age go to the bathroom together, even if only one of them has to go. So use a buddy system with your children. Or you can take your full class, do a potty break, you take the full class to the bathroom, you wait outside, and have them go through one by one until everyone's gone, and then take your class back to your classroom. All right, next is worship and technology use. So we expect you to worship with our children. Worship is important. It's why we're made. We're made to worship the Lord. And the way that we typically do this, especially with our younger kids, since we don't have a live band, is we use videos. So in our classrooms, Power Kids Junior and below, we have TVs that do have access to YouTube. Typically, what we'll do is we'll find YouTube videos that have songs with motions that get the children involved. What I do encourage you to do is, if you are going to be the lead of the week, preview videos that you know ahead of time. Make sure that you go through and watch the entirety of the video to make sure that there is nothing that was slipped in by somebody that had evil intentions. Make sure that when you watch it, that it is appropriate. Now, we don't tell you what songs to specifically play. We just ask that the songs that you do play align with the tenets of faith that we believe here at Spring First. Next is just music. If you would like to have music playing in your room, you can use the radios. There's a lot of portable radios in rooms. If you use a radio, then we're listening to KSBJ, which is 89.3, Air One, which is 103.7, or K-Love, which is 97.1. Also, we have CDs in the resource room that you are more than able to check out and have playing as background music, especially in our younger age classes. Besides that, if you have access to a computer, if you're in Power Kids and you want to play some music, you can use any streaming device that we have, or streaming with Spotify. You just need to make sure that, again, any song that you play aligns with the tenets of faith that we believe here at Spring First. When it comes to videos or movies, videos and movies are prohibited with the exception of two things. First, we need to make sure if it's a clip that is going along with what you're teaching. If you find a short YouTube clip that is going along with what you're teaching about, and it just sort of emphasizes the lesson, that is you're more than able to play that short video clip. However, movies, we don't want movies to be played with the exception of when we have a special event. For example, we had the marriage conference here in February. When we had the marriage conference, we had a 6-hour block of time with the children. So after lunch, as a quiet time, we played a pre-approved movie that we approved first. We aren't just going and picking that day. We're getting it approved, and we would be more involved with that. If you are in charge of a special event like that, you need to make sure that you touch base with myself, Pastor Shalee, or Miss Bethany to see what is the appropriate video that could be played. Now, we will allow you for the end of your service. If there's free time or service is going a little extra long and you went through the full activity schedule, but service is still running, then we do have a streaming app called Yippee. So Yippee is a kid appropriate pre-approved streaming service that the church has paid for. All the content on there has been approved. It's really great. That can only be played from noon on. So if service is running long, typically service is getting over around 12:15. So those last 15 minutes, if there's free time, or if it goes past that, that's the only time that we want you to have the TV on. Again, most of our time needs to be interacting with kids. Most children have plenty of time with technology, so we want them to be playing, being together, having an adult playing with them as well. All right, next is photography. Please don't take pictures of children in your class, okay? We want to make sure if you are taking any pictures, it's only of like your classroom setup or a picture of your lesson, because we don't have parent discretion or parent approval yet for anyone to be posting pictures of their children. So if you would like to take pictures, again, keep it so that it's just pictures of your lesson, the classroom, without the children. You can't have any defining characteristics that they can be identified. If and when we get parental approval of taking pictures, you would be able to take pictures, but you still would not be able to post anything on social media unless it's approved by one of the pastoral staff. So myself, Pastor Shalee, or Miss Bethany. So please, we would caution you, just don't take pictures, because that leads into the next thing, which is technology for our workers. We need to make sure that our time that we are spending in a classroom is dedicated to the children. We don't want you to have your cell phone out. We don't want you to be on your cell phone or smartwatch. We're there for the children. So everything that we do must be focused on them. So for teenagers that are in our ministry, they're not even going to have their phone. When teenagers sign in, which is anyone that's 15 to 18, they will turn their cell phone in to the information booth. So they won't even have it. Adults, you will have it. And I will say this, you will be able to use your cell phone if you're doing one of two things. First, if you're using it for teaching. So what do I mean by that? If you wrote down notes for your lesson, but you wrote it in your phone for your notepad, or let's say you think of a Bible verse when you're up on stage and you don't have it memorized and you're looking it up real quick. Those are fine. You can also use your phone to check in on the live stream of the service just so you can gauge how much time you believe you'll have left. This way you can close out your classroom and your class the way that you want to make sure that you get everything through that you want to get through. Other than that, do not have your cell phones out. Don't be on it because, again, we want our time dedicated to the children. Okay, that moves to the next thing, which is first aid. There are always going to be situations where kids are going to be playing and they cut themselves on a toy, or they fall and they scrape their knee. So every room is equipped with a little first aid kit. It has the basic first aid materials with Band-Aids, antibiotic cream, anything to clean up a cut or a wound. If it's anything more serious, then that's where you're going to need to use the walkie-talkie to alert the team lead or the ministry lead or the floater to come to your room to help out. If it is something more serious, the ministry lead will give you an incident report to fill out just so we can inform the parents of what happened. It'll have a place where the teachers will be able to sign to inform the parent of what happened so that everyone knows and we have it documented. Other than that, if it is a serious injury, don't call 911 or anything first. You need to alert us to come to then alert the proper authorities. Next is if we have an emergency or we need to evacuate the building. What do we do in those emergency procedures? So if we have an emergency procedure that is weather-related or safety-related, depending on what the situation is, most likely what you're going to do is you're going to listen to the walkie-talkie to follow the directives that us as the children's leads will give you. So most likely what you will do is you're going to go to the most secure part of your classroom. This can be a little bit more difficult in some rooms that have more windows and such, but we're going to do our best to make sure that we are maintaining safety. If for some reason we need to evacuate the building, each room has an evacuation route posted right next to the door. Follow the route that it says is the most quickest or the quickest way to get out of the building, and follow that so that we can line up outside. When you take your children outside, make sure that you keep them in an orderly fashion. I know that's a little bit more difficult with our younger children, but they should understand the severity and they'll notice something's a little bit different, and typically you'll be able to get their attention. So do your best to organize them outside. I guarantee if it truly was a situation like that, parents would be out to help to make sure that their kids are safe. But please just make sure you follow any directives that the ministry leads give you through the walkie-talkies. All right, so once we go through all of the normal what do we do during service, the next thing is checkout. So when it comes to checkout, every child receives a sticker on their way into children's ministry. So what they're going to do is you are going to get a sticker. It looks like this, and you're going to put the sticker from the child on one side and then the parent sticker on the other side. Sometimes we stack them on top of each other. This form, it looks like this when you first get it. It's just a blank piece of paper, but it just says Children's Ministry Checkout. Now, what this does, you might be wondering, why do we take the time to go through and save those stickers? Well, the stickers are just another log for us to verify if a child was appropriately picked up by their parent. If we can verify that we have a matching child ticket with a parent ticket, that tells us that the parent, it truly did pick them up in case any allegations again arise. We're trying to put all these procedures again to keep everyone in compliance and everyone safe. So when a tag is brought to your room, all you're going to do is you're going to verify that the codes match. So you'll notice in the black boxes, there is a code that's going to match from the child's name and the code. So you verify that that code matches, and then you're going to gather the student's supplies, any crafts that you may have made, any activities, maybe any treats, any candy or prizes that they won. You'll collect that. For our younger ages, they get little brown bags that you put all their stuff in, so you're going to gather that for them, and then you're going to escort them out the door to give to the checkout runner, which we'll talk about here in just a second. The checkout runner will then take them to the reunification area where they'll be reunited with their parents so that they can be on their way. Now, I will warn you, with visitors, we have a little laminated tag. They're not in our system yet, so they can't print the nice tags that we normally have. So when you get a visitor and you get a laminated card, you just need to check the tag, because what they'll do is they'll write the name of the student on that tag, and that still has a code, but it's going to match the handwritten code that's on the actual student. So you still need to verify the number. It's just going to be a little bit different because you won't be able to put two stickers on the page. Also, with those visitors, if they have multiple children, sometimes there's going to be multiple names on that tag. So you might have to give that tag back to them, the laminated one, so that they can go pick up other children. So that's just a little warning for you when we have visitors. Now, once checkout procedures have started, you're starting to move kids out, two things to caution you. First, make sure parents are staying out of the room. We have these checkout areas for a reason. We're trying to maintain, especially downstairs, there's a lot of children that get emotions when they see their parents again. They could be really happy and excited. Others, they're so excited to see their parents, they start to cry, and we're trying to limit that. So that's why we're having these checkout areas, so that when children are reunited, it's not making everyone else in the class upset or making it a chaotic situation. So first, make sure parents are staying in the checkout area. And second, I want to warn you, make sure that you're staying in the room. You need to stay in that room until all of the children have been picked up. No longer are we walking children from the Learning Center over to the main building. You need to make sure that you stay in that classroom until all of your children have been picked up. Now, some of you may be working in other rooms, and some of your kids might be in a different class that you can't get to because you have kids. So in those situations, the team leads know that, and we will escort children appropriately where we need to. Or if service is running extra and some of the kids are getting picked up, but then other parents are potentially up at altar time or talking with someone else or talking to a pastor, what we'll incorporate is an overflow classroom. So anytime that's utilized, we'll warn you, we'll walk you through it. We just want to always maintain that we have those two teachers in the room, and we don't want any walking of children next door. Now, with all that said, I still want to go through if you're signed up and you're just a checkout volunteer, because that is a different position. Everything I just ran through is if you're the teacher in the room, where you're staying in the room, you're not doing anything else. If you're a checkout volunteer, you're kind of just doing everything else in reverse. You're staying at the checkout area. You're going to be the friendly face that the parents are going to come and give the tag to. What you're going to do is you're going to run that tag to the appropriate classroom to find where the student is, to then be able to escort them back. When you give this tag to the teacher, especially if it's a visitor tag, just let them know, hey, this is a visitor. You can look to see if there's multiple kids on it, just so that they're aware of who it is. Once you've delivered the tag, you're returning to the checkout line again to get any other children to then bring out. So you're just keep repeating that process of get a tag, run to the classroom, get a child, take them out, and then get the next tag. So it's a constant cycle of running through that. Now, if you are a checkout volunteer and a parent says they don't have a tag, what you're going to have to do is just inform those parents that they're going to actually have to wait until all the other parents are done. We need to get any parents that have their tag through the process first, and then any parents that have lost their tag for some reason, or they just didn't ever get one, they're going to have to wait so that we can verify with other documentation. When parents have signed in or signed up to be part of children's ministry, we've asked them for other identifiable information from their driver's license. So we will have to get the binder to verify that they are truly the parent that is allowed to pick up, so that we can then release their child to them. I understand that will cause frustrations. Just let them know that we're doing it for safety. If we're not doing it for someone that we actually know already, it should give them relief knowing, hey, they truly are taking this seriously, and they wouldn't let some stranger who we might not know, wouldn't let their child to go to someone that we don't know. So we're, again, doing this all for the cause of safety and assurance. All right, once checkout is done and all of your kids have been picked up, the next thing is cleanup. So cleanup procedures. Similar to your schedule of service in your class, we do have a cleaning procedure sheet. So this cleaning procedure sheet goes through everything that you need to do to lock up and finalize your classroom. So what you need to do is first, get the children involved picking up the toys. So this happens kind of during pickup time, during checkout. Have the kids help out. This is something that encourages them to know, like, hey, they need to take some responsibility. Helps teach them that they need to pick up after themselves, and it's something that all children need to learn, and it's fine if it's us that's teaching them that. While the day is going on and you're in class, if you ever notice that a toy, especially with our younger kids, if a toy is being put in a mouth, or kids might have boogery noses, or and they seem like they might be a little bit under the weather, if you see toys that are being played by those children or being put in the mouth, just keep a record of those toys, or even when they're done playing with it or they drop it, set it to the side so that it can be sanitized. We need to make sure that we're sanitizing to the best of our ability the toys that they come in contact with, because we don't want them to have any germs spreading for any unknown reason. So set aside toys. The sanitizing spray in each classroom is going to be underneath the sink. So every room has a sink with the exception of Power Kids, but we also don't have toys. So the rooms that have toys, underneath the sink in the room, there's going to be a spray that says sanitizing spray. You're going to use that to spray down any toys as well as any surfaces, tables specifically, and wipe down with paper towels just to sanitize it. Next, you're going to erase any whiteboards. So if you use a whiteboard, or even if you didn't, if you notice there's writing on a whiteboard, we want you to erase it just so that we can keep the whiteboards in pristine shape. Next, you're going to vacuum the room. So the Rainforest room has a vacuum already in it. Rainforest room is the room that's upstairs, Power Kids Junior. But the downstairs rooms don't have a vacuum that's in the room. What you'll need to do is use the walkie-talkie to contact your team lead, and they will be able to get the vacuum from one of the cleaning closets that you can then run through. We want to make sure that we maintain the cleanliness of our learning center. We don't have a lot of time or really the manpower to do a thorough cleaning. So if we can maintain it week after week by our workers, it lightens the load for everyone else. In addition, we do have MDO that also uses these rooms, and it's not considerate to leave it a mess for the next people that come in. So make sure that you are sanitizing tables with the spray. Make sure that you're vacuuming up the room. Even if it doesn't look like it's that dirty, run the vacuum through the whole room. It just makes sure and it maintains cleanliness in the facility. Next, put any extra supplies back into the bin that's in your room. Gather any trash, tie it shut, and you're going to put it in the big trash can out by the kitchen. So in the back of the Learning Center, there are some big trash cans right outside the glass doors there. So when you're done, gather all the trash, empty the vacuum into that bag, and then when you are done and you're leaving the building, you're getting ready to leave, just go run out the back, throw the trash into that big trash can, and it will be disposed of appropriately. Then in the bottom of each trash can, we leave extra bags. So just reline the trash can so that, again, the next group that comes in and uses that room has it ready so that they can just dispose of their trash appropriately as well. If we work together, it's going to be an easy process. And if we continually maintain, it's not going to take that long to clean. Once you're all done, trash is taken out, just make sure you pull your pull-down windows. If you have a room that has an open window, the metal sliding window, lock it, and then turn off all the lights. Once that's done, then you're free to move on to the next step. So number 5, you're just going to return your supplies back to the resource room. Take your bin. The resource room will be unlocked. You just set it on the counter so that we can restock it for the following week. And then lastly, you're just going to sign out down at the information booth, or when we get the sign-in place up in the resource room, you'll just sign out after you place your bin there. And you're going to return your lanyard so that you can be used by the next worker the following week. So that's a typical day. That's the bulk of what we wanted to go through with this, because those are what you need to know. If you are truly coming in, you've never worked with children's ministry here at Spring First, that is a typical day. That's how a typical service runs. But there's a couple other things we want to go through as well that'll come up. And the first one is discipline. Discipline will have to be enforced by you as the adult. So our goal is not to have kids behaving a certain way. Remember, our goal is for them to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. You're going to have children that get upset. You're going to have children that are coming in with emotions. You're going to have children that come in from various stages in life. And we need to make sure that we're showing them the love of Christ even when they might be not behaving the way that we want them to. They'll be disruptive. They'll be talking when you're asking them to stop. These are typical kid behaviors, and we're not saying that it's good to be not listening, but we also need to have an understanding and love for these children and try to teach them what is appropriate. So when it comes to a situation where you do need to discipline, the first thing that we want to do, we need to redirect the children. This is especially important with our younger children. If we can redirect them to something different or kind of distract them, sometimes they'll forget the misbehavior that they were doing. They won't even think of it anymore, so they'll stop doing it. But if they are continuing to do that, we need to make sure that we get their attention and that they're looking us in the eyes. If we can they can focus on us and look at us and we can get their attention, we can then start speaking to them. And when we speak to them, we need to remain calm. We don't want to, even if we feel really frustrated and angry ourselves, we need to maintain our composure and self-control. As the adult in that situation, we need to demonstrate to them that fruit of the Spirit, that self-control. So we need to stay calm. We need to have short and direct directions and statements. So if a student is talking when you're going to call for their attention and use their name and say, "Please stop talking when I am." Short and sweet. It's not a time to lecture. When you speak to them, you then are going to ask them, after you're done giving them that short directive, you're going to ask them to restate what you told them. If they can retell you what you just said, that means they did hear you and they did process it. If that redirects them and they stop after they understand the situation and you've remained calm, great. Potentially you can move on and it won't be a situation anymore. However, if the child is continuing to be disrespectful or continuing to do the behavior that you're asking them not to, The next step that we're going to do is we're going to remove the child. We're going to put them to the side to allow them to cool down or have a space to themselves where they can sort of wait to be able to be re-engaged into the group. Now, when we do this, the time that you're going to put them into that sort of cool down area is going to be equivalent, the number of minutes will be equivalent to their age. So if you have a 2-year-old that's talking back or not acting appropriately, you're going to set them to the side for 2 minutes. And after that 2 minutes, you're going to bring them to the group, even if they're still going to be talking back or not approving. So you're going to bring them back. You're going to try again. And if, again, you're going to go through those first 2 steps. First, redirect, get their attention. And then again, if they're still not acting appropriately, then we're going to, again, set them aside for another 2-minute cool down. We're going to continue that process. We can't do anything else. And we're going to continue that showing love, showing self-control. And if it becomes where we need to continually do that, we're then going to call for the ministry lead to come over. So that would be myself, Pastor Shalee, Miss Bethany, whoever is the floater. We're going to ask them to come up and assist. If this means that that leader comes in and talks to them and then calm down, great. But if not, we will alert the parents using their code that's on the child's sticker. That's the other important reason of why we have the stickers, because we can put that code on in service so that parents know to come over to assist with their child. Now, all of that said, teens that are working and volunteering are never allowed to be the ones that administer discipline. The adults in the room, which again are anyone 18 years or older, they are the ones that are allowed to go through these steps. Now, it's okay for a teenager to ask a child to stop, but if it continues, then the adult needs to step in and intervene to help maintain that leadership and be able to have more of a self-control when it comes to the situation. So with teenagers said, let's talk about teenage volunteers. So even if you are an adult right now, we want to go through this because you might be working with a teenager. So you need to understand what we're expecting of our volunteers. So a teenage volunteer is defined in our policy manual as anyone that's aged 12 to 17. However, majority of our volunteers that are working with kids directly are actually going to be aged 15 to 17. So girls age 15 to 17 are free to supervise any age group. So they can work any of our classes from infant all the way up through Power Kids. The one thing we have to be cognizant of, and this is more on the leads, is that a teenager can only work with an adult who's 20 years or older. We're not going to pair a teenager with an 18-year-old because they're both still a little bit young and we need a little bit more maturity in the room. So a teenager, 15 to 17, is going to be working with an adult 20 plus. Remember that those girls, if they're working in the infant nursery, those female girls that are 15 to 17 are not allowed to change diapers, and they're also not allowed to pick up or transport newborns. Now, that does not mean they're not allowed to hold them. They can be sitting in a seat and then have the adult give them a baby, but we are not allowing them to transport a child. Babies are at that point where they're very not necessarily sensitive, but they're vulnerable and they need to be cared for with utmost diligence and care. And sometimes we just want to clarify and make sure that it's only adults that are doing that. So we need to make sure that if a teenager is working in that room, the adult needs to be cognizant of you're going to be changing the diapers and you're also going to be having to transport a lot of the babies when they need the help. Next is any boys that are 15 to 17. That age group are only allowed to work in Power Kids, which is from 6 and older. So this just cuts down on any suspicious behavior that is unfortunately typical or a typical problem with teenage boys. So boys are only going to be allowed to work in Power Kids. And then lastly, I said that teenage workers are anyone from 12 to 17, but everything I just said was 15 to 17. So that age group that's 12 to 14, where do they fall in? Well, all teenagers are free to work in our Power Kids audio visual room, our sound room. We want them to be able to volunteer in that room because, A, it gives them a place where they can volunteer. They're just transitioning out of being in Power Kids, so they know what Power Kids is all about. and they're very good with the technology. So it's a place where they can fit in and start learning some of the things that will help them to transition when they come over and maybe want to help in sound or video over here in the main service. So any teenager aged 12 to 17 is more than welcome to come over and volunteer over in the sound room. So with all that said, some closing things. So first off, some things on the horizon for yourself. If you're currently not a member of Spring First Church, we are going to ask that you become a member of Spring First Church by the end of this year. With us implementing these new policies, we want to make sure that the people that we have over there are understanding the tenets of faith we believe here at Spring First Church, so that we have alignment from the top all the way down. So first thing, make sure if you're not a member of Spring First, get on that and ask about it. I know we just had a membership class recently, but we have them very often that you can get involved and understand when to do that so that you can become a member. Also, we're going to be having a child abuse training and as well as first aid and CPR training coming up. We're currently working on finding that, so you will hear more information about that in the near future. And then last is you will be receiving this form. So this is our Children's Ministry Worker Agreement form. On this form, there's a place for you to read through our core beliefs and initial, and then on the back, it gives some more explanation of expectations so that you can sign. This is documentation for us as the leaders to understand who's gone through this policy, and it just verifies that you have agreed to everything that's written in there. Now, if anytime you read through a policy or you're looking at the policy yourself and you have questions about it, you are more than free to contact myself or Pastor Shalee or Miss Bethany, and we are more than happy to clarify any issues at all. So with that said, thank you so much for watching this training, and I look forward to working with you.